First contact and ridicule. The Starship Endeavour hung in low orbit around Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar colony. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling storms of the gas giant that dominated the viewscreen. After decades of preparation and a journey that had pushed the limits of human endurance, they had finally arrived. But they were not alone. "Captain, we're detecting an unknown vessel on an intercept course," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface of his console. It's massive, sir. At least 10 times our size." Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "Hail them, Lieutenant. Let's hope first contact protocols weren't just theoretical exercises." As the crew waited with bated breath, the alien ship came into view. It was a thing of beauty. Sleek, organic lines that seemed to flow like liquid metal, pulsing with an otherworldly energy that defied human understanding. The view screen flickered, and Sarah found herself face to face with the ship's alien commander. The being before her was vaguely humanoid, with iridescent scales covering its elongated skull and 4 arms that moved with unsettling grace. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Endeavour," she said, fighting to keep her voice from trembling. "We come in peace and friendship." The alien's mouthparts twitched in what Sarah hoped was amusement rather than aggression. When it spoke, its voice was a melodious trill that the ship's computer struggled to translate. "I am High Commander Zixkar of the Galactic Conclave," the alien replied. "We have been observing your species for some time, Captain Chen. Your arrival here was anticipated." Sarah's mind reeled. They had been watching. For how long? She pushed the questions aside, focusing on the diplomatic niceties that had been drilled into her during years of training. "We're honored to make your acquaintance, High Commander," she said. "We hope this meeting will mark the beginning of a fruitful relationship between our peoples." Zixkar's upper set of arms waved dismissively. Yes, you may dock with our vessel. We are curious about your kind." The communication cut off abruptly, leaving Sarah and her crew to exchange worried glances. This was not how they had imagined first contact would go. Hours later, Sarah found herself standing in what she could only describe as a throne room aboard the alien vessel. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and gravity seemed to shift subtly with each step. Zixkar lounged on a raised dais, surrounded by a coterie of aliens of various species, all of whom regarded the human delegation with a mix of curiosity and barely concealed disdain. "So," Zixkar began, "you humans have managed to crawl out of your little corner of the galaxy. How quaint." Sarah bristled at the condescension in the alien's tone, but kept her diplomatic smile firmly in place. "We're eager to learn from more advanced civilizations," she replied. "Our journey here represents the culmination of centuries of scientific progress." A ripple of what sounded like laughter spread through the alien crowd. Zixkar's mouthparts curled into what Sarah was beginning to recognize as a smirk. "Progress," the alien commander scoffed. "Let us see this progress of yours." With a gesture from one of its lower arms, a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room. It showed detailed schematics of the Endeavour, including its propulsion systems, life support, and, most alarmingly, its weapons. "Primitive fusion drives," Zixkar commented, its voice dripping with mockery. "Crude artificial gravity. And these, what do you call them?" "Ah, yes, railguns. How barbaric." Sarah felt her face flush with a mixture of embarrassment and anger. The Endeavour represented the pinnacle of human technological achievement. To have it dismissed so casually was infuriating. "Our technology may seem simple to you," she said, fighting to keep her voice level, "but it has served us well. We've crossed interstellar distances and established a colony on a world beyond our solar system." Zixkar waved all 4 of its arms in a gesture that needed no translation. Pure dismissal. A feat that species far less developed than ourselves accomplished eons ago. "Tell me, Captain Chen, do you truly believe you have anything to offer the galactic community?" Before Sarah could respond, one of the alien attendants approached, carrying what appeared to be a weapon. It was a sleek, almost beautiful device that hummed with barely contained energy. "This," Zixkar explained, taking the weapon, "is a standard-issue sidearm for our peacekeeping forces. It fires plasma bolts capable of vaporizing targets at molecular levels, guided by an AI that ensures perfect accuracy." The alien commander aimed the weapon at a far wall and fired. There was a brief flash of light, and a section of the wall simply ceased to exist, leaving behind a perfectly circular hole with edges that glowed white-hot. "Now," Zixkar continued, turning back to Sarah, "show us your most advanced personal weapon." Sarah hesitated. She knew what was coming, and it took every ounce of her self-control not to simply refuse. But she was here as a representative of humanity, and she couldn't back down from this challenge. With deliberate slowness, she unholstered her sidearm, a next-generation pistol that fired smart bullets capable of limited course correction in flight. It was a marvel of human engineering, but next to the alien weapon, it might as well have been a flintlock. A chorus of alien laughter filled the chamber as Sarah held up the pistol. Zixkar actually doubled over, its scales shimmering with mirth. Is that a chemical propellant weapon?" The alien commander gasped between fits of laughter. "How delightfully primitive. I haven't seen one of those outside of a museum in millennia." Sarah's grip on the pistol tightened, her knuckles white. She had never felt so small, so insignificant. Was this how humanity's grand journey into the stars would end? As a joke for advanced aliens to laugh at? But as she stood there, enduring the ridicule, a fire began to burn in Sarah's chest. She thought of the generations of scientists and engineers who had worked tirelessly to get humanity to this point. She thought of the colonists on Proxima Centauri, bravely carving out a life on an alien world. She thought of all the challenges her species had overcome: disease, war, environmental catastrophe, to reach for the stars. "You may laugh," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the alien merriment like a knife. "But this weapon, primitive as it may seem to you, represents something you clearly don't understand." The laughter died down, and Zixkar regarded her with renewed interest. "Oh, and what might that be, little human?" Sarah met the alien's gaze unflinchingly. "Determination, ingenuity, the drive to exceed our limitations. This pistol might not be able to vaporize a wall, but I guarantee you that in the hands of a human being, it's far more dangerous than you can imagine." A tense silence fell over the chamber. Zixkar's eyes narrowed, its mouthparts working as if tasting the air. "Bold words, Captain Chen," the alien commander said at last. "But words are wind. If your species is so determined, so ingenious, then prove it." Sarah's mind raced. This was a dangerous game, but it was also an opportunity. A chance to show these arrogant aliens what humanity was truly capable of. "Name your challenge," she said, her voice steady and confident. "Whatever test you devise, I promise you this: humanity will surprise you." Zixkar's scales rippled in what might have been amusement or anticipation. "Very well, human. Your bravado is entertaining, if nothing else. I will consult with my advisors and devise a suitable test for your species. Be warned, failure will mean more than mere embarrassment. The galaxy has little use for races that cannot contribute." As Sarah and her crew were escorted back to their docking bay, her mind whirled with possibilities and fears. She had just committed humanity to an unknown challenge against a vastly superior civilization. The fate of her entire species might well rest on the outcome. But as she walked, Sarah felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. Yes, the aliens were advanced beyond human imagining. Yes, their technology made humanity's greatest achievements look like stone tools in comparison. But there was something the aliens didn't understand, something that had driven humanity from huddling in caves to reaching for the stars. When pushed to the brink, when faced with impossible odds, humans didn't give up. They got creative. As the airlock sealed behind them, and the Endeavor disengaged from the alien vessel, Sarah turned to her crew. She saw the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. "All right, people," she said, her voice ringing through the ship's corridors. "We've got work to do. Whatever challenge these aliens throw at us, we're going to show them exactly what humanity is capable of. Let's make Earth proud." As the Endeavor moved away from the massive alien ship, Sarah couldn't help but feel a glimmer of excitement beneath her apprehension. Humanity had come to the stars seeking new frontiers, new challenges to overcome. They had certainly found one: the unexpected challenge. The Endeavor hung in space, a tiny mote against the vast backdrop of Proxima Centauri's ruddy light. Inside, Captain Sarah Chen paced the bridge, her footsteps echoing in the tense silence. It had been 3 days since their encounter with the Galactic Conclave, 3 days of waiting for the aliens to present their challenge. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, breaking the silence. "We're receiving a transmission from the Conclave ship." Sarah straightened her uniform, taking a deep breath. "On screen, Lieutenant." The familiar face of High Commander Zixkar filled the view screen, its scales shimmering with what Sarah now recognized as smug satisfaction. "Captain Chen," the alien said, its voice lilting with amusement, "we have devised a suitable test for your species. Are you prepared to prove your worth to the galactic community?" Sarah met the alien's gaze steadily. "We are, High Commander. What is the nature of this challenge?" Zixkar's mouthparts twitched in what might have been a smile. "We have detected a rogue planetoid on a collision course with a populated world in a nearby system. Your task is simple: prevent the impact and save the planet's inhabitants." Sarah's heart raced. This was no mere test of technology or martial prowess. This was a matter of life and death on a planetary scale. "How much time do we have?" "The impact will occur in precisely 14 of your Earth days," Zixkar replied. "Oh, and to make things interesting, we've disabled the faster-than-light capabilities of your vessel. You'll have to reach the system using your Quink fusion drives." Sarah's mind reeled. Without FTL, the journey alone would take most of their allotted time. How could they possibly hope to stop a planetoid with only hours to spare? "This is impossible," she protested. "You're not testing us. You're setting us up to fail." Zixkar's scales rippled in what was unmistakably laughter. "Come now, Captain. Where is that human determination you spoke of? Surely this is but a trivial task for such an ingenious species." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Sarah staring at her own reflection in the blank screen. She turned to face her crew, seeing the same mix of shock and despair on their faces that she felt in her heart. "Orders, Captain." Commander Yuki Tanaka, her first officer, asked quietly. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself. When she opened them, there was steel in her gaze. "Plot a course for the target system, maximum acceleration, and get every scientist and engineer on this ship working on solutions. We've got 2 weeks to figure out how to move a planet." As the Endeavor accelerated away from Proxima Centauri, Sarah retreated to her ready room. She activated the ship's eye, a glowing blue hologram materializing on her desk. "RIA," she addressed the AI. "I need you to run simulations. Every possible method of deflecting or destroying a planetoid with the resources we have on board, and I need options for increasing our speed without FTL." The AI's avatar nodded. "Understood, Captain. Processing now." Preliminary results suggest that conventional methods such as nuclear detonations or kinetic impacts will be insufficient given our limited time frame and resources. Sarah rubbed her temples, feeling the beginnings of a headache. What about unconventional methods? Think outside the box, RIA. Our entire species is counting on us. As the AI worked, Sarah pored over the ship's inventory. The Endeavor wasn't a warship or even primarily a science vessel. It was a colony ship designed to transport people and supplies to establish a foothold on a new world. What could they possibly use to stop a planet-killing impact? Days passed in a blur of brainstorming sessions, failed simulations, and mounting despair. The crew worked around the clock, fueled by caffeine and desperation. They considered and discarded dozens of plans, using the ship's fusion drive as an improvised thruster, attempting to break up the planetoid with carefully placed explosions, even trying to evacuate the threatened planet's population. Nothing was viable. They simply didn't have the time or the resources. A week into their journey, with hope fading fast, Sarah called a meeting of her senior staff in the ship's conference room. Dark circles under their eyes betrayed the crew's exhaustion, but there was still a spark of determination in their gazes. "All right, people," Sarah began, her voice hoarse from too many sleepless nights. "We're running out of time and options. I need ideas, no matter how crazy they might seem." Dr. Emeka Okoro, the ship's chief scientist, cleared his throat. "Captain, I've been thinking. We've been approaching this problem from the wrong angle. We can't stop the planetoid, not with what we have. But what if we could make it miss?" Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on, Doctor." Emeka activated a holographic display, showing the threatened planet and the approaching planetoid. "Instead of trying to move the projectile, what if we move the target? If we could alter the planet's orbit just slightly, we might be able to make the planetoid pass harmlessly by." A murmur of excitement ran through the room. It was a wild idea, but it was the first glimmer of hope they'd had in days. "How could we possibly move an entire planet?" Commander Tanaka asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Emeka's eyes gleamed with the fire of scientific discovery. "Gravity, Commander. We use gravity." The next hours were a flurry of calculations and simulations. Emeka's plan was audacious. They would convert the Endeavor's fusion drive into a makeshift gravity generator, creating a gravitational wake that would ever so slightly alter the planet's orbit. "It's not without risks," Emeka warned as they finalized the plans. "We'll be pushing our drive way beyond its design limits, and the margin for error is, well, it's microscopic. If we're off by even a fraction, we could end up making things worse." Sarah looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each of her crew members. She saw fear there, yes, but also determination and trust. They were ready to risk everything on this desperate gamble. "Do it," she ordered. "Get started on the modifications immediately. We'll reach the system in 5 days. I want us ready to implement this plan the moment we arrive." As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Sarah felt a weight settle onto her shoulders. The fate of an entire world, and the future of humanity's place in the galaxy, now rested on this insane plan. The next 5 days were a whirlwind of activity. Every available crew member was enlisted to help with the modifications to the fusion drive. They cannibalized non-essential systems, repurposed equipment in ways its designers had never intended, and pushed the ship's fabricators to their limits, creating custom components. Through it all, Sarah divided her time between overseeing the work and communicating with the threatened planet. The aliens there were understandably skeptical of the humans' plan, but as their own efforts to avert disaster failed one by one, they became more receptive. Finally, with less than 24 hours until impact, the Endeavor arrived in the system. The threatened planet loomed large in their view screen, a beautiful blue-green orb that reminded Sarah painfully of Earth. And there, just visible against the backdrop of stars, was the rogue planetoid, a dark mass hurtling towards its appointment with destruction. "All stations, report," Sarah ordered, her voice taut with tension. One by one, her crew confirmed their readiness. The modified fusion drive was online, the navigation systems had been recalibrated, and the planet's population was as prepared as they could be for what was to come. "This is it, people," Sarah said, her words carried to every corner of the ship and broadcast to the waiting planet below. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this moment. Whatever happens, I want you all to know that I couldn't be prouder of this crew. You've exemplified the very best of humanity." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Engage the gravity wake. The ship shuddered as the fusion drive roared to life, pushed far beyond its intended capabilities. On the view screen, A shimmer appeared in space, the gravitational distortion they had created. For long, agonizing minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The planetoid continued its inexorable approach. The threatened planet hung motionless in space. Sarah gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles white. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the planet began to move. A cheer went up from the crew as their instruments confirmed what their eyes could barely perceive. The planet's orbit was shifting, fractions of a degree at a time, but shifting nonetheless. But their elation was short-lived. Alarms blared across the bridge as the fusion drive's output began to fluctuate wildly. "Captain, we're losing containment." Lieutenant Rodriguez shouted over the din. "The drive can't take this kind of strain." Sarah's mind raced. They were so close, but if the drive failed now, all would be lost. She made a split-second decision. "Divert all power to the drive," she ordered. "Life support, weapons, everything. Give it every ounce of energy we've got." The lights on the bridge dimmed as power was rerouted. The air grew thin and cold as life support systems were taken offline. But the fusion drive stabilized, its output surging. On the view screen, the planet's movement became more pronounced. It was pulling away from its original position, sliding out of the path of the oncoming planetoid. "Impact in 60 seconds. Commander Tanaka called out, her voice strained. The bridge fell silent, every eye fixed on the drama unfolding before them. The planetoid grew larger in the view screen, its pitted surface coming into sharp relief. 30 seconds. Sarah held her breath, silently willing the planet to move faster. 10 seconds. The planetoid filled the screen now, a wall of rock hurtling towards them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There was a collective gasp as the planetoid shot past the planet, missing it by a margin that seemed impossibly small. It continued on its way, disappearing into the depths of space. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then, as the realization of what they had accomplished sank in, the bridge erupted in cheers and laughter. Crew members hugged each other, tears of joy and relief streaming down their faces. Sarah slumped in her chair, exhaustion and elation warring within her. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved an entire world. As the crew celebrated around her, a new transmission came through. It was High Commander Zixcar, its scales a subdued shade that Sarah hadn't seen before. "Captain Chen," the alien said, its voice lacking its usual mocking tone. "It seems we underestimated your species. This feat, it should not have been possible with your level of technology." Sarah allowed herself a small, tired smile. "As I told you, High Commander, humanity has a knack for exceeding limitations." Zixcar was silent for a moment, its alien features unreadable. Then it spoke again, its words sending a thrill through Sarah's exhausted body. Perhaps there is a place for humanity in the galactic community after all." As the transmission ended, Sarah looked around at her crew. Tired, dirty, but triumphant. They had faced an impossible challenge and emerged victorious. More than that, they had proven humanity's worth to a cosmos that had dismissed them. It was, Sarah realized, only the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, more opportunities to show what humans could do. But for now, for this moment, they had earned their place among the stars. "Well done, everyone," she said softly. "Let's go home." The Endeavour turned slowly, its battered hull gleaming in the light of an alien sun, and began its long journey back to Earth. They had a story to tell, a story of human ingenuity, determination, and the day they had moved a planet to save a world. Human ingenuity unleashed. The journey back to Earth was long and fraught with challenges. The Endeavour limped through space, its systems strained to the breaking point by their desperate gambit. But as they traveled, news of their incredible feat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. By the time they reached the outskirts of the Sol system, they were greeted not just by the cheers of their fellow humans, but by a delegation of alien ships from various species. It seemed that humanity's audacious solution to an impossible problem had captured the imagination of the galactic community. As the Endeavour docked at the newly constructed orbital station above Earth, Sarah Chen felt a mixture of pride and trepidation. They had proven humanity's worth, but at what cost? And what would come next? The debriefing lasted for days. Scientists, military strategists, and politicians from around the world grilled Sarah and her crew on every detail of their encounter with the galactic conclave and their planet-moving feet. Through it all, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed in humanity's relationship with the cosmos. It was during one of these debriefing sessions that Dr. Emeka Okoro, still riding high on the success of his gravity wave theory, made a suggestion that would alter the course of human history. "We've proven that we can think outside the box," he said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "But we're still playing catch-up with alien technology. What if we could leapfrog ahead? Use our unique human perspective to solve problems that have stumped other species for millennia." The room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. It was Admiral Helena Vasquez, a grizzled veteran of Earth's space forces, who spoke first. "You're talking about turning our weakness into a strength," she said, nodding slowly. "Instead of trying to match alien tech, we find problems they can't solve and crack them our way." Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. "It's a good idea in theory, but how do we put it into practice? We can't exactly go around asking advanced alien civilizations what's been stumping them." A sly smile spread across Emeka's face. "Actually, Captain, I think we can. Remember, the galaxy is buzzing about us right now. We're the plucky underdogs who did the impossible. I bet if we put out a call for unsolvable problems, we get plenty of takers." And so, Operation Quantum Leap was born. A bold initiative to position humanity not as mere newcomers to the galactic stage, but as innovative problem solvers with a unique perspective. Teams of Earth's brightest minds were assembled, ready to tackle whatever challenges the cosmos might throw their way. The response was overwhelming. Alien civilizations from across the galaxy, some so advanced that their technology seemed like magic to human eyes, began sending in problems that had plagued them for generations. Some were theoretical, questions of physics and mathematics that defied conventional understanding. Others were practical, engineering challenges that seemed impossible to overcome. Sarah found herself at the heart of this new initiative, coordinating between the human teams and their alien clients. It was a role that combined diplomacy, project management, and no small amount of creative thinking. One of the first major breakthroughs came in the field of faster-than-light communication. While many species had mastered FTL travel, instantaneous communication across vast distances remained elusive. The current methods all involved some degree of time delay, making real-time conversations between star systems impossible. The problem had been posed by the Storax, a species of silicon-based life forms known for their mastery of quantum mechanics. Their existing communication network relied on quantum entanglement, but they had hit a wall in reducing the decay of entangled particles over long distances. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Sarah's former first officer and now head of the FTL communication research team, approached the problem from an entirely different angle. "We're not going to beat the Storax at their own game," she explained during a project review. "Their understanding of quantum mechanics is centuries ahead of ours. But what if we don't need to use quantum entanglement at all?" Her team had been exploring an obscure theory from the early 21st century, the idea of quantum tunneling through higher dimensions. It had been largely abandoned by mainstream physics, considered too speculative and impossible to test with existing technology. But Yuki and her team had taken this old theory and combined it with insights gained from their encounter with alien technologies. The result was a prototype device that didn't so much send messages through space as it did briefly connect 2 points in the universe through a higher dimensional shortcut. When they first demonstrated the device to the Storax representatives, the aliens were stunned into silence, a reaction that Sarah found deeply satisfying after their initial dismissal of human capabilities. This is not possible. The lead Thrax scientist sputtered, its crystalline form vibrating with agitation. You've completely bypassed the quantum decoherence problem. How? Yuki smiled, a hint of pride in her voice as she explained. We didn't try to solve the problem you were facing. We found a way around it entirely. As news of this breakthrough spread, more and more alien species began clamoring for human assistance with their own unsolvable problems. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, was quickly gaining a reputation as the galaxy's premier out-of-the-box thinkers. But not everyone was thrilled with humanity's rapid rise to prominence. Some species, particularly those who had long enjoyed positions of technological superiority, began to view humans with suspicion and fear. There were whispers of a growing anti-human sentiment in some corners of the galaxy. It was against this backdrop of growing tension that Sarah received an urgent summons from the newly formed Galactic Council. The message was cryptic, mentioning only a crisis that threatened the stability of the entire galaxy. As the Endeavour, now refitted and upgraded with a mix of human ingenuity and alien tech, approached the massive space station that served as the Council's headquarters, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of déjà vu. Once again, humanity was being called upon to prove itself. The Council chamber was a vast, circular room, its walls lined with holographic displays showing real-time images from across the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the tiered seating, their forms ranging from the nearly human to the utterly alien. At the center of it all stood High Commander Zixkar, looking older and more careworn than Sarah remembered. As she approached, she noticed a new respect in the alien's eyes, a far cry from the contempt it had shown during their first meeting. Captain Chen. Zixkar greeted her, its voice somber. We find ourselves in need of human creativity once again. Sarah straightened, her curiosity piqued. What seems to be the problem, High Commander? Zixkar gestured to the holographic displays, which now showed a strange, swirling anomaly in space. We call it the Void Storm. It appeared on the fringes of known space several cycles ago and has been growing ever since. It defies all known laws of physics, consuming everything in its path. Planets, stars, even entire systems. Sarah studied the images, a chill running down her spine. The void storm looked like a cosmic maelstrom, a whirlpool of absolute darkness that seemed to devour light itself. Our best scientists have been unable to explain it, let alone stop it, Zixkar continued. If it continues to expand at its current rate, it will reach the core worlds of the galaxy within a standard year. The implications were staggering. Billions of lives, countless civilizations, the accumulated knowledge and culture of an entire galaxy, all threatened by this incomprehensible phenomenon. What have you tried so far? Sarah asked, her mind already racing with possibilities. Zixkar's scales rippled in what Sarah now recognized as frustration. Everything. Energy barriers, gravitational anchors, even attempts to collapse it using artificial singularities. Nothing has had any effect. Sarah nodded slowly, taking it all in. And you think humans might have a solution? You have proven adept at finding unconventional solutions to seemingly impossible problems, Zixkar admitted. The Council is willing to provide you with any resources you need, but time is of the essence, Captain Chen. The fate of the galaxy may well rest in human hands. As Sarah left the Council chamber, her mind whirled with the enormity of the task before them. This was beyond moving planets or solving communication problems. They were being asked to save the entire galaxy from an existential threat. Back on the Endeavour, she called an emergency meeting of her senior staff and the lead scientists from Operation Quantum Leap. As they gathered in the ship's conference room, Sarah could see the mix of excitement and apprehension on their faces. All right, people, she began, activating a holographic display of the Void Storm. This is what we're up against. I need ideas, no matter how crazy they might seem. We're not bound by conventional thinking here. That's our strength. For hours they brainstormed and debated. Theories were proposed and discarded rapid-fire. Some suggested trying to feed the void storm, accelerating its consumption in hopes of triggering some kind of cosmic gag reflex. Others proposed attempts to alter the fundamental constants of the universe in the region around the anomaly. It was Dr. Emeka Okoro who finally proposed an idea that made everyone stop and think. "What if," he said slowly, "we're looking at this all wrong? What if the void storm isn't a natural phenomenon at all?" Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" Emeka's eyes gleamed with the excitement of a new theory taking shape. "Think about it. This anomaly defies all known laws of physics. It appeared suddenly and grows at a steady rate. What if it's not a storm at all, but a weapon?" A murmur ran through the room as the implications sank in. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "You think someone created this deliberately?" Emeka nodded grimly. "Or something. An ancient automated defense system, perhaps, or a long-dormant doomsday device finally activated. The point is, if it's artificial, it can be understood. And if it can be understood, it can be stopped," Sarah finished, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah dispatched teams to gather more data on the void storm, while others began combing through ancient galactic records for any mention of similar phenomena or long-lost civilizations capable of creating such a device. As the pieces began to fall into place, a picture emerged that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The void storm, it seemed, was indeed artificial, the last-ditch weapon of a long-extinct species who had faced their own existential crisis millions of years ago. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah and her team began to formulate a plan. It was audacious, dangerous, and relied on technology that they barely understood. But as Sarah stood before the Galactic Council to present their findings and their proposed solution, she felt a surge of pride in what humanity had accomplished in such a short time. "Members of the Council," she began, her voice steady and confident, "we believe we have found a way to stop the void storm. But I warn you, our plan is not without risks. We will need your full cooperation and resources if we are to succeed." As Sarah laid out the details of their plan, she could see the mix of hope and skepticism on the faces of the alien representatives. It was a long shot, they all knew it, but in the face of galactic annihilation, even a slim chance was better than none. When she finished speaking, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then, slowly at first but building to a crescendo, applause filled the chamber. Species that had been bitter enemies for millennia united in their support of the human plan. As Sarah left the council chamber, surrounded by aliens offering their thanks and support, she couldn't help but reflect on how far humanity had come. From being dismissed as primitive newcomers to becoming the galaxy's last, best hope for survival, all in the span of a few short years. The real work, she knew, was just beginning. The plan to stop the void storm would push human ingenuity and alien technology to their absolute limits. But as she looked at the determined faces of her crew and their new alien allies, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not through brute force or technological superiority, but through creativity, determination, and the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Sarah knew that together they would find a way to overcome them. The galaxy was counting on them, and humanity, as always, was ready to rise to the occasion. Turning the tide. The plan to stop the void storm was audacious, combining human ingenuity with the most advanced alien technologies from across the galaxy. At its core was a simple yet revolutionary idea. If the void storm was indeed an ancient weapon, then it must have a control mechanism. Find that, and they might be able to shut it down. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, now barely recognizable as the colony ship that had first made contact with the Galactic Conclave. It had been refitted with a dizzying array of alien tech, its hull gleaming with exotic materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "Status report," Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the tension that thrummed through the ship. Lieutenant Rodriguez, still at his post after all they'd been through, responded crisply. All systems nominal, Captain. The Allied fleet is in position and awaiting our signal. Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath. Around the Endeavour, a vast armada of ships from dozens of alien species hung in space. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. The combined might of the galaxy, united under human leadership. Begin the approach, Sarah ordered. Take us in. The Endeavour surged forward, leading the fleet towards the roiling edge of the void storm. As they drew closer, the sensors began to go haywire, struggling to make sense of the physics-defying anomaly before them. Dr. Emeka Okoro's voice came over the comm, tense but excited. Captain, we're picking up some strange readings. There's a pattern in the chaos. It's subtle, but it's there. Sarah leaned forward, her heart racing. This was what they had been hoping for. A sign that the void storm wasn't just mindless destruction, but a controlled process that could be understood and potentially reversed. Can you isolate it? She asked. Working on it, Emeka replied. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. The pattern shifts and evolves, almost as if it's alive. A chill ran down Sarah's spine at those words. They had theorized that the void storm might be more than just a weapon, but the implications of it being a living entity were staggering. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. Captain, Rodriguez shouted, we're detecting massive energy spikes. The storm, it's reacting to our presence. Sarah's mind raced. They had anticipated that their approach might trigger some kind of response, but not this quickly. Evasive maneuvers, she ordered. All ships, fall back to safe distance. The Endeavour banked hard, its enhanced engines straining as it pulled away from the storm's edge. But it wasn't fast enough. A tendril of void energy lashed out, striking the ship's shields with devastating force. The bridge shook violently, sparks flying from overloaded consoles, shields down to 60%. Rodriguez reported, his fingers flying over his controls. Another hit like that, and we're done for. Sarah gritted her teeth. They were so close, they couldn't turn back now. Dr. Okoro, she called out. We need that pattern analysis now. I've almost got it. Emeka's voice crackled over the damaged comm system. Just a few more seconds. Those seconds stretched into an eternity as the void storm roiled before them. Tendrils of nothingness reaching out hungrily towards the ship. Sarah could feel the eyes of her crew on her, waiting for her next command. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Got it. Emeka's triumphant shout cut through the tension. Sending the data to your console now, Captain. Sarah's eyes flew over the stream of information, her mind working furiously to make sense of it. The pattern was incredibly complex, a multidimensional equation that seemed to describe the very fabric of reality itself. And there, hidden within the swirling chaos of numbers and symbols, she saw it. A flaw. A vulnerability. All ships, Sarah called out, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. Target these coordinates with your primary weapons. Fire on my mark. The Allied fleet responded instantly, their diverse array of energy weapons charging up. The void storm seemed to sense the threat, its tendrils whipping out with increased fury. 3. Sarah began the countdown, her heart pounding. 2. 1. Fire. A dazzling array of energy beams lanced out from the fleet, converging on the points Sarah had identified. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a silent flash that seemed to bend the very light around it, a hole appeared in the void storm. It worked. Emeka shouted, We've created a stable entry point. Sarah allowed herself a small smile of victory. But she knew this was just the beginning. Prepare the insertion team, she ordered. We're going in. The insertion team was a hand-picked group of the best scientists and engineers from across the galaxy, each chosen for their unique skills and knowledge. At its head was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Sarah's former first officer and the brilliant mind behind the FTL communication breakthrough. As the team boarded their specially designed craft, Sarah met Yuki's gaze. "Be careful in there," she said softly. "We have no idea what you'll find." Yuki nodded, her expression determined. "We'll find a way to stop this thing, Captain. Count on it." Sarah watched as the insertion craft detached from the Endeavor and made its way towards the hole in the void storm. As it passed through the boundary, it seemed to shimmer and distort before vanishing from view. Long minutes passed with no communication from the team. The fleet held its position, weapons trained on the storm, ready to widen the hole if necessary. Sarah paced the bridge, every second feeling like an hour. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the comm crackled to life. "Endeavor, this is Tanaka. Do you read?" A cheer went up from the bridge crew. "We read you, Doctor," Sarah replied, relief evident in her voice. "What's your status?" "It's incredible in here, Captain." Yuki's voice was filled with awe. "We're in some kind of control center. The technology. It's like nothing we've ever seen. But we think we found the main control terminal." Sarah's heart leaped. This was it. The moment they had been working towards. "Can you shut it down?" There was a pause, filled with the sound of rapid discussion in the background. Then Yuki's voice came back, tension evident. "We can, Captain. But there's a complication." Sarah's elation faded. "What kind of complication?" "The void storm," Yuki explained, her voice grim. "It's not just a weapon. It's a lifeboat." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Explain." "The species that created this, they didn't intend to destroy the galaxy. They were trying to save it. The void storm is containing something. Something worse." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. If they shut down the void storm, they might be unleashing an even greater threat upon the galaxy. "What are our options?" Sarah asked, her mind racing. "We're working on it," Yuki replied. "We might be able to modify the storm's programming, change its behavior without shutting it down completely. But it's going to take time." Sarah looked out at the view screen, where the void storm continued to churn ominously. "Time is something we don't have much of, Doctor. That hole won't stay open forever." As if to emphasize her point, alarms began to blare across the bridge. "Captain," Rodriguez called out. "The hole is starting to close." Sarah made a split-second decision. "Dr. Tanaka, do what you can. We'll hold the hole open as long as possible. But if we give the signal, you need to get out of there immediately. Understood?" "Understood, Captain," Yuki replied, determination evident in her voice. "We won't let you down." What followed was a desperate battle against time and the laws of physics themselves. The Allied fleet poured energy into the hole, struggling to keep it open as Yuki and her team worked feverishly to reprogram the ancient alien technology. Ships were lost, swallowed by the encroaching void. The Endeavor's shields failed completely, its hull groaning under the strain of forces it was never designed to withstand. But still they held on, buying precious seconds for the insertion team. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, when the hole had shrunk to barely the size of the insertion craft, Yuki's voice came over the comm once more. "We've done it. Initiating shutdown sequence now." "Certainly. I'll continue with part 4 of the story. Here's the 4th part, containing approximately 2,000 words. Part 4, Turning the Tide. The plan to stop the void storm was audacious, combining human ingenuity with the most advanced alien technologies from across the galaxy. At its core was a simple yet revolutionary idea. If the void storm was indeed an ancient weapon, then it must have a control mechanism. Find that, and they might be able to shut it down. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, now barely recognizable as the colony ship that had first made contact with the Galactic Conclave. It had been refitted with a dizzying array of alien tech, its hull gleaming with exotic materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "Status report," Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the tension that thrummed through the ship. Lieutenant Rodriguez, still at his post after all they'd been through, responded crisply. All systems nominal, Captain. The Allied fleet is in position and awaiting our signal. Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath. Around the Endeavour, a vast armada of ships from dozens of alien species hung in space. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. The combined might of the galaxy, united under human leadership. Begin the approach, Sarah ordered. Take us in. The Endeavour surged forward, leading the fleet towards the roiling edge of the void storm. As they drew closer, the sensors began to go haywire, struggling to make sense of the physics-defying anomaly before them. Dr. Emeka Okoro's voice came over the comm, tense but excited. Captain, we're picking up some strange readings. There's a pattern in the chaos. It's subtle, but it's there. Sarah leaned forward, her heart racing. This was what they had been hoping for. A sign that the void storm wasn't just mindless destruction, but a controlled process that could be understood and potentially reversed. Can you isolate it? She asked. Working on it, Emeka replied. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. The pattern shifts and evolves, almost as if it's alive. A chill ran down Sarah's spine at those words. They had theorized that the void storm might be more than just a weapon, but the implications of it being a living entity were staggering. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. Captain, Rodriguez shouted, we're detecting massive energy spikes. The storm, it's reacting to our presence. Sarah's mind raced. They had anticipated that their approach might trigger some kind of response, but not this quickly. Evasive maneuvers, she ordered. All ships, fall back to safe distance. The Endeavour banked hard, its enhanced engines training as it pulled away from the storm's edge. But it wasn't fast enough. A tendril of void energy lashed out, striking the ship's shields with devastating force. The bridge shook violently, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. Shields down to 60%. Rodriguez reported, his fingers flying over his controls. Another hit like that, and we're done for. Sarah gritted her teeth. They were so close, they couldn't turn back now. Dr. Okoro, she called out, we need that pattern analysis now. I'd almost got it. Emeka's voice crackled over the damaged comm system. Just a few more seconds. Those seconds stretched into an eternity as the void storm roiled before them. Tendrils of nothingness reaching out hungrily towards the ship. Sarah could feel the eyes of her crew on her, waiting for her next command. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Got it. Emeka's triumphant shout cut through the tension. Sending the data to your console now, Captain. Sarah's eyes flew over the stream of information, her mind working furiously to make sense of it. The pattern was incredibly complex, a multidimensional equation that seemed to describe the very fabric of reality itself. And there, hidden within the swirling chaos of numbers and symbols, she saw it, a flaw, a vulnerability. All ships, Sarah called out, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. Target these coordinates with your primary weapons. Fire on my mark. The Allied fleet responded instantly, their diverse array of energy weapons charging up. The void storm seemed to sense the threat, its tendrils whipping out with increased fury. 3. Sarah began the countdown, her heart pounding. 2. 1. Fire. A dazzling array of energy beams lanced out from the fleet, converging on the points Sarah had identified. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a silent flash that seemed to bend the very light around it, a hole appeared in the void storm. It worked. Emeka shouted, "We've created a stable entry point." Sarah allowed herself a small smile of victory, but she knew this was just the beginning. "Prepare the insertion team," she ordered. "We're going in." The insertion team was a hand-picked group of the best scientists and engineers from across the galaxy, each chosen for their unique skills and knowledge. At its head was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Sarah's former first officer and the brilliant mind behind the FTL communication breakthrough. As the team boarded their specially designed craft, Sarah met Yuki's gaze. "Be careful in there," she said softly. "We have no idea what you'll find." Yuki nodded, her expression determined. "We'll find a way to stop this thing, Captain. Count on it." Sarah watched as the insertion craft detached from the Endeavor and made its way towards the hole in the void storm. As it passed through the boundary, it seemed to shimmer and distort before vanishing from view. Long minutes passed with no communication from the team. The fleet held its position, weapons trained on the storm, ready to widen the hole if necessary. Sarah paced the bridge, every second feeling like an hour. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the comm crackled to life. "Endeavor, this is Tanaka. Do you read?" A cheer went up from the bridge crew. "We read you, Doctor," Sarah replied, relief evident in her voice. "What's your status?" "It's incredible in here, Captain." Yuki's voice was filled with awe. "We're in some kind of control center. The technology. It's like nothing we've ever seen. But we think we found the main control terminal." Sarah's heart leaped. This was it, the moment they had been working towards. "Can you shut it down?" There was a pause, filled with the sound of rapid discussion in the background. Then Yuki's voice came back, tension evident. "We can, Captain. But there's a complication." Sarah's elation faded. "What kind of complication?" "The void storm," Yuki explained, her voice grim. "It's not just a weapon. It's a lifeboat." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Explain." "The species that created this, they didn't intend to destroy the galaxy. They were trying to save it. The void storm is containing something. Something worse." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. If they shut down the void storm, they might be unleashing an even greater threat upon the galaxy. "What are our options?" Sarah asked, her mind racing. "We're working on it," Yuki replied. "We might be able to modify the storm's programming, change its behavior without shutting it down completely. But it's going to take time." Sarah looked out at the view screen, where the void storm continued to churn ominously. "Time is something we don't have much of, Doctor. That hole won't stay open forever." As if to emphasize her point, alarms began to blare across the bridge. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, "the hole is starting to close." Sarah made a split-second decision. "Dr. Tanaka, do what you can. We'll hold the hole open as long as possible. But if we give the signal, you need to get out of there immediately. Understood?" "Understood, Captain," Yuki replied, determination evident in her voice. "We won't let you down." What followed was a desperate battle against time and the laws of physics themselves. The Allied fleet poured energy into the hole, struggling to keep it open as Yuki and her team worked feverishly to reprogram the ancient alien technology. Ships were lost, swallowed by the encroaching void. The Endeavor's shields failed completely, its hull groaning under the strain of forces it was never designed to withstand. But still they held on, buying precious seconds for the insertion team. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, when the hole had shrunk to barely the size of the insertion craft, Yuki's voice came over the comm once more. "We've done it. Initiating shutdown sequence now." Sarah watched, her heart in her throat, as the insertion craft shot out of the collapsing hole, engines straining. Behind it, the void storm began to change. The roiling chaos slowed, then stopped altogether. The inky blackness began to recede, revealing stars that had been hidden for who knew how long. A cheer went up across the fleet as the full magnitude of their victory became apparent. The void storm was gone, transformed into a containment field that would hold whatever horror the ancient aliens had sought to imprison, without threatening the rest of the galaxy. As the insertion craft docked with the Endeavor, Sarah felt a wave of emotions wash over her: relief, pride, exhaustion. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had once again risen to the challenge and saved the galaxy. But as she watched Yuki and her team disembark, their faces a mixture of triumph and haunted awe. Sarah knew that this victory had come at a cost. They had glimpsed something out there, something that an entire civilization had been willing to risk the galaxy to contain. And someday, they might have to face it again. For now, though, there was celebration to be had. As news of their success spread across the galaxy, messages of gratitude and congratulations poured in from countless worlds. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, had proven themselves to be invaluable members of the galactic community. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, looking out at the stars that they had saved. She thought of how far they had come, from that first encounter with the galactic conclave to this moment of triumph. But she also thought of the challenges that lay ahead. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and terrors beyond imagining. And humanity, with its unique blend of ingenuity, determination, and adaptability, would be at the forefront of exploring and protecting it. As the Endeavor set a course for Earth, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. Whatever the future held, she knew one thing for certain: humanity was ready for it. The stars beckoned, and they would answer the call. Triumph and new perspectives. The return journey to Earth was filled with a mixture of jubilation and introspection. As the Endeavor led the Allied fleet through the star-studded expanse, Sarah Chen found herself reflecting on the profound changes that had occurred in such a short span of time. Earth's orbital space was barely recognizable. Where once there had been a handful of primitive satellites and a single space station, now there was a bustling hub of interstellar activity. Ships of various alien designs moved in complex patterns, their hulls shimmering with technologies that would have seemed like magic just a few years ago. As the Endeavor approached, a transmission came through. "Captain Chin," a familiar voice said, "on behalf of the United Earth Government, welcome home." Sarah smiled as she recognized the voice of Admiral Helena Vasquez. "Thank you, Admiral. It's good to be back." The welcome ceremony was a spectacle unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Representatives from hundreds of alien species gathered alongside human dignitaries to celebrate the crew of the Endeavor and the successful resolution of the Void Storm crisis. As Sarah stood on the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, human and alien alike, she felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a celebration of their victory. It was a testament to how far humanity had come. "We stand here today," Sarah began her speech, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd, "not just as the crew of the Endeavor, not just as humans, but as members of a galactic community. The threat we faced was not to one world or one species, but to all of us. And it was through unity, through the combined efforts of countless individuals from across the stars, that we prevailed." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But our work is far from over. The galaxy is vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond our imagining. The Void Storm may be contained, but there will be other challenges, other crises that will require us to come together, to push the boundaries of what we thought possible." Sarah's gaze swept across the audience, meeting the eyes of humans and aliens alike. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt, to find creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. It is this quality that has brought us from our first tentative steps into space to standing here today as peers among the stars. As the ceremony concluded and the celebrations began in earnest, Sarah found herself approached by an unexpected figure. High Commander Zixkar, the alien who had once dismissed humanity as primitive. "Captain Chin," Zixkar said, its scales shimmering with what Sarah now recognized as respect. "I owe you and your species an apology. We were wrong about humanity. Your people have proven to be not just worthy allies, but essential members of our galactic community." Sarah nodded, accepting the apology with grace. "Thank you, High Commander. But the credit doesn't belong to me alone, or even to humanity alone. It was our combined efforts that saved the galaxy." Zixkar's mouthparts twitched in what Sarah had come to recognize as a smile. "Indeed, and that is perhaps the greatest lesson we can take from this crisis. No single species, no matter how advanced, has all the answers. It is through cooperation and the sharing of diverse perspectives that we truly progress. As the High Commander moved away to mingle with other dignitaries, Sarah found herself cornered by Dr. Emika Okoro and Dr. Yuki Tanaka. The excitement in their eyes told her they had made a breakthrough. "Captain," Emika began, barely containing his enthusiasm, "we've been analyzing the data from the Void Storm Control Center. The implications are staggering." Yuki nodded in agreement. "The technology we encountered there, it's not just advanced. It fundamentally alters our understanding of physics. If we can decipher it, it could lead to advancements in energy production, space travel, even the nature of reality itself." Sarah felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. That's incredible. But given what that technology was containing, are we sure it's safe to pursue? Emika's expression grew serious. "That's the thing, Captain. Whatever the ancient aliens were containing, it's still out there. The modified void storm is holding it back for now, but we don't know for how long. If we're going to be prepared for when it eventually breaks free, we need to understand this technology." Sarah nodded slowly, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders once again. "All right, but we proceed with caution. Set up a joint research initiative. I want the best minds from Earth and our alien allies working on this, and make sure we have safeguards in place. We don't want to accidentally unleash something we can't control." As Emika and Yuki hurried off to begin organizing the research team, Sarah found herself drawn to a quiet corner of the celebration. She looked out over the Earth, its blue-green surface swirling with clouds, and marveled at how small and yet how significant their world now seemed in the grand tapestry of the galaxy. A soft voice interrupted her reverie. "It's quite a view, isn't it?" Sarah turned to find Admiral Vasquez standing beside her, also gazing out at the planet below. "Admiral," Sarah greeted her with a nod. "Yes, it is. Though I have to admit, after everything we've seen out there, it feels different somehow." Vasquez smiled knowingly. "That's the burden of explorers, Sarah. Once you've seen what's beyond the horizon, you can never look at home quite the same way again." They stood in companionable silence for a moment before Vasquez spoke again. "The Council has been in contact. They want to formalize humanity's role in galactic affairs. They're offering us a permanent seat on the Galactic Council." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. "That's unprecedented. We've barely been part of the galactic community for a few years." "True," Vasquez agreed, "but in that time, we've saved the galaxy twice over and revolutionized several fields of science. Like it or not, humanity is now a major player on the cosmic stage." Sarah considered this, her mind racing with the implications. It's an incredible opportunity. But it also comes with enormous responsibility. Are we ready for it? Vasquez turned to face her fully, her expression serious. "That's where you come in, Sarah. The Council has specifically requested that you serve as humanity's first representative." For a moment, Sarah was speechless. Her, a diplomat. She was an explorer, a problem solver, not a politician. But as she thought about it, she realized that perhaps that was exactly what was needed. Someone who had been out there, who had seen firsthand both the wonders and the dangers the galaxy held. I'm honored," Sarah said at last. "But what about the Endeavor? My crew?" Vasquez smiled. "The Endeavor will continue its mission of exploration and first contact, but with some upgrades. We're thinking of making it the flagship of a new fleet, a combination of human ingenuity and the best alien tech our allies are willing to share." As the implications sank in, Sarah felt a surge of excitement. This wasn't an end to her journey among the stars. It was a new beginning, a chance to shape humanity's place in the galaxy on an even grander scale. "All right," she said, straightening her shoulders. "I accept, but on one condition. I want to be kept in the loop on the Void Storm research. If that thing out there is as dangerous as we think it is, we need to be prepared." Vasquez nodded solemnly. "Agreed. We'll make sure you have full access to all reports and findings." As they shook hands, sealing the agreement, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at how far they had come. From being dismissed as primitive newcomers to taking a seat among the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, all in the span of a few short years. The celebration continued around them, a joyous mixing of species and cultures that would have been unimaginable not long ago. But even as Sarah allowed herself to enjoy the moment, her mind was already turning to the challenges ahead. There was so much to do. Integrating human technology with alien advancements, preparing defenses against unknown cosmic threats, navigating the complex politics of a galactic civilization, and always pushing further into the unknown, seeking out new frontiers and new challenges to overcome. But as Sarah looked out at the stars, now more numerous and inviting than ever before, she felt a sense of profound optimism. Humanity had found its place among the cosmos, not through conquest or technological superiority, but through creativity, determination, and the willingness to reach out in friendship to those who were different. Whatever the future held, whatever wonders or terrors lurked in the vast expanses of space, Sarah knew that humanity would face it as they always had, with courage, with ingenuity, and with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and understanding. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. It wouldn't make that mistake again. As the celebration wound down and the dignitaries began to disperse, Sarah found herself alone on the observation deck, gazing out at the star-studded void. The Endeavour floated serenely nearby, its hull bearing the scars of their recent battles, but still proud and strong. She thought of all they had accomplished, all they had overcome, the desperate gambit to move a planet, the nail-biting journey into the heart of the void storm, the countless moments of inspiration and perspiration that had turned seemingly impossible problems into triumph after triumph. But more than that, she thought of the friendships forged, the bonds created between species that had once viewed each other with suspicion or disdain. She thought of the lessons learned, not just in science and technology, but in cooperation, in seeing beyond differences to find common ground. As Sarah Chen, soon to be humanity's first representative on the Galactic Council, looked out at the vast expanse of the cosmos, she felt a sense of both humility and pride. Humility at the sheer scale of the universe and all its mysteries. Pride in what humanity had achieved and what they yet might accomplish. The stars beckoned, filled with promise and peril in equal measure. And humanity, no longer alone in the cosmos, but now an integral part of a vast galactic community, was ready to answer that call. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever wonders or horrors the universe might hold, Sarah knew one thing for certain: the greatest adventure was just beginning. With a smile on her face and determination in her heart, Sarah turned away from the viewport. It was time to get to work. The galaxy was waiting, and humanity had a lot to offer. The future, vast and unknowable as the cosmos itself, stretched out before them, and it was bright with possibility.